Welcome to the Pathways to Success. I'm Julian Placino, recruiting professional turned success speaker, show host, and media entrepreneur. This show is dedicated to helping you find your unique pathway to success by having conversations that educate, inspire, and transform. Together, we'll interview some of the world's greatest leaders and uncover their secrets to success. Thanks for tuning in, and on to the show. Welcome to episode 190 of the Pathways to Success, where we help you find your unique pathway to success by having conversations that educate, inspire, and transform with the world's greatest leaders. I'm Julian Placino, your host, and we have an outstanding show for you today. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Code Up, the premier career accelerator in Texas. Code Up's web development and data science programs will take you from beginner to job-ready professional in 22 weeks from the comfort of your own home. Code Up's data science program has an 88% employment rate, and their web development program has an astonishing 99% employment rate. Code Up is so confident in their programs that if you don't find a career in field within 6 months of graduating, you'll receive a 100% tuition refund. So if you are ready to start your career in web development or data science, I recommend you check out Code Up at codeup.com. That's CODEUP.com. So I am very excited about the guest we have on the show today. I've developed a great relationship with her over the years, personally and professionally. It's my pleasure to welcome Amy Czuchlewski, Executive Vice President of Technology at BottleRocket. Amy, welcome to the Pathways to Success. How are you?
Thank you so much, Julian. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be included in your amazing cast that you've had on the show over the years.
And what a, can I call it full circle in terms of like where we are right now? Do you remember how we met?
I do. Do you want to tell the story though?
No, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I was looking for something new and looking for a new opportunity. You were connected to me through a prior coworker that I had.
Francis.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Shout out to Francis if you're watching this. Thank you.
And she is amazing.
If
yes,
it wasn't
absolutely.
for Francis, think about it. You wouldn't be at BottleRocket through this connection. That's amazing.
That is absolutely true. So Francis introduced us, and this was my first introduction to your long benching process, which I use all the time now, so thank you for that. So Julian reached out to me. We had an initial conversation. I had one interview, and then Julian was like, well, this was great, but I don't think we have a spot for you right now. I'll keep in touch. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Well, just like tell me like we're done and it's fine. But he called me about once a month. Julian would like reach out, hey, I just wanted to check and see how things are going. And I'm like, what's with this guy? It's so weird. He keeps reaching out to me. Like, why don't we just like, I didn't get the job. I got it. Like, we're good. And about 6 months later, I think it was 6 months, eventually Julian was like, okay, I think I have a position. Why don't you come back in? I went through a series of interviews, and that's how I got hired at BottleRocket. So all through Julian's like perseverance and persistence of keeping after me.
This is the reason why I kept reaching out to you, is because number one, we didn't have an immediate position open, right? But I saw something really amazing in you. Specifically, you had a proven track record of technology leadership. You have managed very large, fiercely loyal teams. And although we didn't have that position right now, I knew you were someone we needed to keep in touch with. And that's kind of like where this idea of long benching in recruiting, we call it pipelining process, began at BottleRocket, right?
Yep, absolutely. And it served us very well. We still use it now.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So Amy, so we can start with just like a baseline of context. Tell our audience, our viewers, what is BottleRocket?
Sure. So BottleRocket is an experience consultancy. We build custom solutions for our customers. And our customers are a lot of Fortune 500 companies that you've heard of, Southwest Airlines, Caesars Hotels and Resorts. We have lots and lots and lots. And it's amazing, really, to come to work and get to work on creating these custom solutions for our clients. So I lead a team of around 150 engineers, quality assurance, solutions architects, and IT development operations. So it's a huge team, and it's so fun to be able to come and be able to bring these awesome experiences to life for our customers.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And I know we have a lot of folks here tuned in to the live stream right now, so shout out to our fellow Rocketeers here. So So Amy, the show is called The Pathways to Success, and we're talking about career secrets for women in technology. And quite frankly, you really are, I keep saying this, one of the best examples I know of a woman who's succeeded in technology specifically, right? So I want to start kind of from the beginning and tell your story and unpack some of these lessons that our audience can learn to apply in their own careers. So how did Amy first come to know that she had an interest or passion in technology?
So, well, thank you for the kind words. And my story is hilarious because I really just sort of accidentally became an engineer. When I was in high school, like all high school students, had to take an aptitude test. And the aptitude test said that I should be a computer science or to be a programmer. And I was like, huh, interesting. All right. So I applied to the engineering program at the University of Michigan and computer engineering, and they accepted me. So I started learning about it. And the fact is, like, I completed my degree, I got a job in computer science, and it kind of just came from there. But as I look back on it, there's so many interesting parts of that that I didn't realize at the time because, honestly, I mean, I chose my first job out of college because of the weather in Austin, Texas. Like, I literally didn't want to live in Michigan because it was snowy. I ended up there. But what I worked on was the very first mobile device that ever had downloadable apps on it. I mean, think about that. How lucky was I to just be in that right place at the right time, having made the stupid decision to move across the country for the weather. But as I look back, like all kinds of the decisions that I made kind of were, like my parents always supported me. They never told me that I couldn't be a computer engineer or that there wouldn't be many other women in my classes. Honestly, I barely noticed because I'd show up at class and I'd be like, you know what? All right, so there's only like a couple girls in my class. I'll hang out with the guys. It's fine. It really didn't bother me until we go to do group projects, and then it was a little bit more sticky because they didn't want to be in groups with me, but that's a different situation. But I think that, like, looking back, I can see all of these things. My dad was a systems analyst. My brother was a DBA. My sister taught computer science in high school. So I have this family history of computers and being involved in computers. My dad, this is an amazing story. So he worked at Kellogg's. And when he started at Kellogg's, he worked in yards and grounds. So what he said, he used to sit on the roof of Kellogg's and like shoot birds with his buddies. That's what he said he used to do. Anyway, apparently that's what they do in yards and grounds, or did back in the 50s. Well, they were looking for young, smart guys to learn about computers at that time. And they trained him and taught him, and he had no college experience other than a short course in horticulture, so had no computer experience, but learned along the way and ultimately retired as a senior systems analyst, which is a pretty big deal for somebody with like no ultimate training. So like, again, as I look back on my path and I look back on all of the things that happened to, you know, and make me end up where I am today, I can see how it all evolved. But it definitely wasn't this intentional passion of where I always wanted to be an engineer. I kind of just happened into it, and I got the support that I needed in order to be successful.
I love it. I love it. What was your first job as as an engineer out of college? What kind of code were you writing? I'm sure a lot of people want to know that. So, yeah.
Sure. So I worked on the very first Java virtual machine that ever went on a cell phone. And so I did all the low-level graphics libraries and user interface libraries that were used to create the apps that ultimately were downloaded. So I did a lot of C programming. I did a little C++, and then I did a lot of Java as well. And in fact, like 100 years ago, I guess it's like 25 years ago now, I spoke at a Java conference about how to optimize your Java code in order to make it the most performant, because back then cell phones weren't very, you know, their processors were slow, wasn't a lot of memory. And so I actually gave a talk about how to optimize, because it was really important to do that, because, you know, we couldn't handle those complex applications like we have now. It was much more like Minesweeper, et cetera.
Yeah. And I am no engineer myself, but I have been in technology recruiting, right? And one thing specifically about these, when you program natively for a phone, I understood it was a different discipline than writing on the web, because it's low memory resource management. That's like a different thing.
That's
right?
exactly right. Yeah, and it's so interesting because now we look back and the phones that we're programming for, I mean, they're just as capable as a computer at this point. Like, you can do just about everything that you can do on a phone that you can do on a computer.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the case back then. And so, yeah, thinking about how you're not going to have a keyboard, how do you input things into the phone? Like, you only have maybe the number keypad, and, you know, we all remember the triple tap texting and like all of that. But like trying to build a user interface using those components was really difficult, and something that, you know, learned to problem solve and figured out how to make it work. But anyway, really interesting first experience that I had out of college.
So writing code out of the gates, let me ask you this then. Can you now sort of make sense of perhaps earlier on, like in your childhood, that you had a predisposition for this kind of thing? Like, can you fill in the blank for this? You might be an engineer if...
So, well, the stock answer to that is if you like to solve problems, and I
Yeah.
talk to kids all the time to get more kids and more girls specifically interested in computer science. And that's what I say, right, is if you're interested in solving problems and you like to think linearly about how to like go down a path in order to solve a problem, you're probably meant to be an engineer. For me personally, when I was in high school, we had a computer in our basement, and a lot of kids didn't at my, I know I'm old, but a lot of kids didn't at my age. A lot of kids didn't have computers, but we did. And I used to sit down in the basement and write programs in BASIC. And I would make my name go in rainbow colors across the screen. I would have little songs that would play and all kinds of just ridiculous silliness. But at the same time, I was programming and I didn't even realize it. And so I think that those kind of opportunities, there's so many games now, Codable and Hour of Code and all these things where kids really get exposed to that sort of thinking early on. And of course, we didn't have any of that when I was a kid, but certainly if your kids are interested in those kind of applications, they might be destined for a career in technology.
Those are good signs. Those are good signs. So how did you go from writing code to managing teams? What did that transition look like?
So that was also an accident.
Okay.
So when I was at Motorola, I had a very small team. I think I had two people and then 4 people. So it was a very small team, and we were working on some tools around those Java applications that we were writing. But from there, like I had an interesting career path because I wasn't a manager for a while after that. I worked at Disney for a short amount of time, and there I was doing product management, which was super interesting, and I learned a lot about requirements and product and how the creative and the design aspects play such an interesting part of the development process. I worked at Accenture for a while, and I was a manager, but again, more project-based management. But that was really interesting as well, learning the value of networking and how to like build connections across multiple. They have 300,000 people at the time. They have way more than that now. Building connections with people there, and then moving to Bottle Rocket now, and I worked at I skipped one, BlackBerry.
That's where we met.
That's right.
At
Yeah,
RIM.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So I was at BlackBerry for quite a long time and building products there, but really working in more of an R&D perspective. So we would do kind of this initial, investigation, creativeness, and then build it into a product and then ship that product. So we ultimately ended up doing product delivery. And so that's when I really started doing more management. So I started, managing a team there, and it was great because we were all focused on a singular goal. So we were all working together. I would kind of help figure out, like at the high level, what the team should be focused on, and then the team really had the autonomy in order to be able to go and do the work that they needed in order to complete whatever product release we were working on. So anyway, so that was really where I got the most management experience. I had a small team that grew and grew and grew. So.
And how big was that team?
I want to say maybe it was like 25 or 30
like
by
25,
the time I left. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it was across Canada and the U.S. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. I got to give a huge shout out. Some folks are commenting on the live stream. Shout out to Luke Wallace. He says, yay, such a great technology leader. Thank you, Luke. It's great to see you, man. Luke and I, we've worked together to hire like dozens of Android developers. So Luke, thank you for tuning in. So, so I'm curious, going from production writing code to managing humans, what was the skill set that you had to learn to be successful in this role?
So what I think is important is really having empathy for what your employees are going through.
Yeah.
And so being from a technology background and being a developer, I know exactly what my team is going through. Like I may not be able, in fact, I definitely can't do what they do anymore. I cannot like code myself out of a box anymore. Yeah. But I do understand the philosophies. I understand the challenges. I understand the dependencies and where they're getting blocked and what's frustrating for them. Like they just want to do good work. They want to show up. They want to have clear expectations, and they want to write great code. And there are a lot of things that hold them back from doing that, right? Having the tools that they need in order to be successful, or having the downstream dependencies if they're waiting on some designs or they're waiting on some API to be completed. That's really frustrating because they just want to do their best work. And so I feel like I have the empathy in order to be able to give them the support that they need to be successful. From a leadership perspective, I really try to build close relationships with my direct reports and the people who I work with. I think it's critical because it's only through that close relationship that you build the trust, and it's that trust that helps me support them in the ways that's going to make them successful. I think they call it servant leadership. I don't really like the term servant leadership, but I like the concept of being that, like, my role is to support my team. Obviously, I need to make the company successful and I need to support the company leadership, but ultimately, that's all going to happen if my team is successful. If they have what they need in order to do great work and feel great about it, then the company is going to be successful as a result.
So there's kind of three sort of chapters that I see here. I see, Amy as the producer, Amy as the manager, now Amy as sort of like the leader / executive, right, in technology. So I'm curious, one of the things that we talked about during the pre-interview was how do you engineer a high-performing team? What have you done differently at Bottle Rocket that perhaps other companies can learn from?
Well, I'm sure all companies have their own special sauce and amazing things that they do that I could learn from as well. And I try and take those learnings whenever I can because I think we can all, find little nuggets of things that we can learn from everybody else. But at Bottle Rocket, some of the things that we found success in are really empowering our teams to have the autonomy to do what they need to do. So we talk a lot about self-managed teams. And what that means is that our project managers, our designers, our engineers, our QA are all working collaboratively together on behalf of the client. I'm not there day to day in every project, figuring out what needs to happen and helping direct the teams. They're figuring it out for themselves. And I think that empowerment really gives them the tools to be successful. They feel proud of the work that they're doing. They feel like they have our support. And if they need help, we are right there to give them the help that they need or give them the extra support. But at the end of the day, I really think that self-managed teams concept is something that's scalable and helps us ensure success on behalf of our customers.
I love it. Amy, we're about to take a quick commercial break here, but before we go into it, I want to know, given your life's experiences and having produced this very definitive result, and you truly represent a fraction of a fraction, not just a woman, but a woman in technology, right? Having succeeded into executive leadership. What is the thing we need to know about you that we could potentially apply into our own careers to be successful? This is not the time to be humble. What was it about you?
So I honestly think that I was raised right. My mom taught me to tell the truth. She taught me to stand up for what's right. She taught me to, just always think of ethics and think of how, to support and do what's right. And so I try and live those values, right? I'm transparent with my teams. I am working to build relationships and make friends, right? I build across my peer network, a support network for myself as well as me supporting others. And that goes up and down as well. I want to make sure that I have mentors and that I am a mentor because you have to multiply it back. And I think all of those lessons that I learned as a child are ultimately what's put me here today.
The values. I love it. I love it. I love it. Amy, we're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from our incredible sponsors.
You want to transition out of your career and do something tech related. CodeUp is the place for you. When I came to CodeUp, I was actually working at a chain hair salon. It was just starting not to be for me anymore. My goals were to never work a weekend ever again, to have full health care and benefits, and to just have more time with my son. And now I've met all of those goals. I don't have any regrets. I just regret not coming sooner when I saw those billboards and I was driving down the highway.
And we're back with Amy Czuchlewski, EVP of Technology at Bottle Rocket, and her keys to success. So, Amy, before we jump into keys to success, I have a small gift for you from our incredible sponsor, Dead Soxy. If you want to take a look at that and check that out.
Thank you. Oh, awesome. Thank you very much.
Pair of designer socks. So thank you to our friends at Dead Soxy. Jason Simmons, thank you very much for supporting the show. Without you all, we could not be doing what we are doing.
Suppose I can't put those on now, huh?
Yeah, I guess we'll. All right. So, Amy, the whole core of this conversation we're having today is all about career secrets for women in technology. Why are you so passionate about speaking on this topic?
So again, my path was sort of strange in that I didn't notice that I was the only woman. Looking back, I see so many opportunities of where I could have made a bigger difference, and I wish I had. And so I try and now do what I can to be in the community and support. And I think one of the major things that's missing for, we've got a pipeline problem. There just aren't that many women who are interested in a career in technology. And that goes way back into middle school. About middle school is when girls start to care about what other kids think, and that's when they'll make their decision about technology, not interested in it, only for boys. And we have an opportunity to be able to reach students at that time when they're making these critical, life decisions, and be able to recast it in a different way. So I do a lot in the community to make sure that I'm visible, because for girls, they're not going to want to be it if they don't see it. Isn't that Dodge? I think it's what it is. Yeah. Because I will tell you, so I work with a local nonprofit called Bold Idea, and we teach kids to code in different schools around Dallas, and I would love to tell you more about that. But in any case, sometimes I'll go to a school and do some recruiting, right? And talk to the kids about computer science and programming and the importance of it, what a career could look like. And then, by the way, let me tell you about Bold Idea, and I would love to have you sign up to learn more about computer science. And if I am the one who goes to a school and talks to the kids, we get more than half girls who sign up. In fact, it's been 75% girls usually if I'm the one that speaks.
Wow.
If it's a man who goes to speak, you get mostly boys. And it's very clear and obvious that it makes a huge difference. But if you look if we aren't actively doing that on a regular basis, we're missing the opportunity to engage with girls. Now, I'm not saying that every girl should be a computer programmer, not by far. It is definitely not the right fit for everybody. But at the same time, let's at least be open to the opportunity and open to the idea of it, and not just throw it away because it's not something that you know of anybody who does it.
Yeah. So that is actually what I wanted to ask. What are the statistics right now for women in technology?
Yeah, I had it. Now I don't remember. Yeah. But I want to say
there's less.
There are less. So no, it's funny because in the 80s, there was a swing up, right? Where it was going, I want to say it went to 40% of women who are graduating with computer science degrees.
Yeah.
And then it started to drop back off. And it went down as low as, I think, 19%. And I want to say we're at 26 now. Don't quote me on the numbers, everyone. You can go and Google it just as easily and find the actual, but it's around that. So right now, it's about 26% of women who graduate with computer science degrees. That is a lot less than 50%.
Yeah.
So how do we get there, right?
What's really interesting is what you said about if a woman speaks about technology, then it will draw a female audience, right? And I think that's why it's really important to sort of showcase these examples. We're going to sort of jump around and engage with the live stream, right? This question is from Amy Braden. Amy, thank you for this question. It's Amy, what's your advice for a recent boot camp graduate to land that first position? And does Bottle Rocket hire beginners? Thank you, Amy, very much for your question.
So first of all, absolutely, Bottle Rocket is one of the best that I've ever worked for in really exploring raw talent. So we look for talented individuals, and we're willing to invest in some training and growth for folks in order to get the right talent and find the right people that can support all of the cool work that we do. So for sure, reach out to recruiting. Would love to talk to you. But that said, I think it really comes down to networking. So we can do our best to try and apply to jobs, but implicit bias is going to come into play. And for women, unfortunately, they've done studies where there's all kinds of different coding platforms where girls can go and ask for help, or where people can go and ask for help. If somebody has a girl sounding or a female sounding tag name, they will get much less favorable responses.
Really?
So if you post, like, here's an example of some code I wrote, would love your feedback. If it's a female sounding name of a person who has posted it, they'll get a lot of negative feedback. If it's a male sounding name, they will still maybe get some negative feedback, but at least it would be realistic and whatever. But you can see there's a difference, and they've done lots of studies about this. And so I think that sometimes there could be an implicit bias that happens when you apply to a company and you have a female sounding name, right? That not intentionally, I definitely don't think this happens on purpose, but people don't necessarily associate women with careers in programming and careers in technology. So absolutely apply for jobs, but also do some networking. Find some women in the community. There are so many wonderful organizations in Dallas and everywhere else where you can engage with the community and start to build a network of people who will support you. And that's really ultimately what's going to make the difference in you finding that next amazing job opportunity is networking and finding an advocate. So the Alliance of Technology and Women is doing amazing work here in Dallas. Women Who Code, Black Girls Code. There's so many great organizations, and I would encourage you to kind of reach out and find some networking opportunities, because I think that'll make a big difference.
Awesome. And I want to know, tell us a little bit about Bold Idea.
Yeah, sure. So Bold Idea, what we have is sort of a mentor-based program where we pair a mentor with 2 students, and they work together on a project-based curriculum. And so it's customized in that, like, they can learn different things throughout different semesters, and it's different. We really want to have retention of students, and so it's generally middle school and high school, but we would love to engage with students in middle school and keep them through high school and teach them something new every single semester, which is something that really sets Bold Idea apart from other companies or other nonprofits, is because we really want to build that long-term relationship and continue growing. So we partner with local tech companies, take a tech company, pair it up with a school, and then build that program together. So it's been super successful, and we continue to grow year after year. I'm on the board of directors, but I've also been a mentor. My daughter has participated, I think, 5 different semesters. She's taking coding with Bold Ideas, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. I want to add to this conversation, Amy. So I oversaw talent acquisition for Bottle Rocket for 7 years, and Amy and I had some great experience hiring entry-level engineers. One thing that I can tell you for sure that you could do is become truly excellent at your craft. Engineering is one of those things that you can sort of demonstrate. Much like you can get to know an artist through their portfolio, you can get to know an engineer through their code, right? So one of the things that we absolutely did all the time is to look at someone's code, and there's like GitHub and coding repositories that you could showcase your stuff, right? So however you can get your code out there in the wild and become good at it, right? So I think that is a good piece that we have demonstrated also. And I actually also remember, engineering is one of those things that really sort of transcends race and gender and even age, because I remember we hired a 15-year-old intern. His name was Riley Testad. He was like legit child prodigy iOS engineer. Do you remember Riley?
Yeah.
Was he hired under your?
I remember, but no, he wasn't hired under mine.
Right. So that is one thing. Become truly excellent at your craft. So we're here talking about this idea of like starting a career in technology, right? So let's say that you have one of these young ladies watching us right now. What are the things they need to consider to figure out which avenue of technology they want to pursue?
So it's a good question, right? There's so many different ways that women or anybody can contribute to technology. And I think that you need to really, just kind of reflect back and think about what gets you excited. So again, if you're somebody who really likes to point out other people's problems, like you're always correcting somebody's spelling mistakes,
QA.
You should look into QA. Yep, that's what you do for a living. You get to point out other people's mistakes. And honestly, there is a certain talent to that because it really takes the exact right kind of person to find the mistakes and do it in a way that's supportive and positive in order to get the best result. If you're somebody who enjoys bossing other people around and telling people what to do, project management. Because honestly, if you're very organized, right, and you know how to follow through, that's exactly where you belong, because ultimately the entire technology team needs somebody to hold them accountable and to push them to meet their goals, meet the deadlines, and that is the project manager. You need somebody who's going to really take that responsibility. there's so much opportunity in creative design and, you know, being able to support technology in that way. And I mean, if you are a creative person and you are an artist at heart, like you know who you are. That is not me, but I know I know there's tons of you out there. And then for a programming career, I think for sure it is somebody who's really a logical thinker, who really enjoys solving problems and thinking linearly. I think really figuring out how to solve a problem from A to B and thinking through all of the steps that it would take to do that. And so, like, some of the things, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of apps now that kids just like to play. It's a game and they enjoy playing it. But how wonderful that they get exposed to these things at a young age. So if you see your kid playing Codable or enjoying Goldie Blocks or any of those kind of toys, the Azobot thing, that is amazing. It's super fun. That's something that, I mean, it could show that maybe in the future this is going to be a computer scientist.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So what are, especially in light of the pandemic, right, and everything that comes with it, I'm curious, are there areas of technology that you are most excited about?
So I think right now we're at an interesting time where there's a lot of digital disruption happening, right? In companies that really didn't do a ton of digital before, it's the only way that they're doing business now. And so I think we're seeing so many companies where it's like they had some old legacy website. All of a sudden, all of their traffic is going to this old legacy website, and their infrastructure can't handle it, and their user interface is old and not meant to be able to handle the, you know, an online order or whatever. And so I think we're seeing so many companies now investing in technology because that's really the only way to meet their customers. And so I think it's a really exciting place to be from like that disruption space. As far as like leading tech and where tech is going, I mean, I loved hearing what CodeUp was doing with data science. That is growing for sure. Like there are definitely not enough data scientists out there because now with so much more traffic going digital, now we want to be able to take all of the data that's coming from that and make sense of it and figure out where should we be investing the next round of digital disruption. So I think that data science is critical in us understanding what our customers are telling us digitally and being able to make decisions that take us to the next level.
Something I've been getting a lot, and this may sound a little bit controversial, but I want to know your honest opinion. You've been in a production role, you've been in a hiring capacity, you've just been in technology for so long. Do you need a degree to be successful in technology?
Absolutely not. So I think this is Amy's opinion, and I will disqualify. But honestly, Amy's opinion is it's an arbitrary construct. I will say that we do tend to find that candidates who have come from a computer science background and have a degree and have been to college, they do tend to be more structured in their approach. They have some fundamentals, they have some structure, they have like, you know, kind of some basic constructs of how to approach an object-oriented design or like what some maybe great design patterns are, software design patterns. But at the end of the day, those can be taught and those can be learned, and it doesn't that can happen on the job. It doesn't necessarily have to happen in school. And so, although we do see some benefit from hiring that way because we, you know, get that stuff for free, we can teach it too. And there's no reason why that can't happen on the job.
Wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. So somebody has their first entry-level technology job, whether it's infrastructure development or whatnot. What do you think that individual's objectives should be for the first maybe 1 or 2 years of their career?
So honestly, like for the first 1 to 2 years, I mean, you just got to get in there and get your hands dirty and work hard, because really what's going to set you apart is that your work ethic. I don't stress so much about the code quality, and everybody wants to be perfect all the time. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned through my career is like, you're not perfect all the time, and you have to just accept that. And I think that a lot of like new engineers really put that stress on themselves of like, I can't make a mistake. I don't want to share this for code review. If, you know, I'm going to get some feedback on it, I want to have it be perfect. Don't be perfect. You know what? That's how we learn. We learn by making mistakes, and you have to be okay making a mistake, because that's how you're going to get better. Doing everything perfect is not realistic, and it's going to take way too much of your time worrying about it. So,
I'm curious, and again, I want to ask for your grace, for the audience's grace, if I, for some reason, accidentally ask a question that doesn't sound politically correct, but the truth is I'm trying to find something true and useful that is beneficial to our audience. But I'm curious, when it comes to a woman in tech's mindset. Have you ever met someone who has experienced some levels of inferiority in the industry because they were women?
Sadly, I have, and I think like I can see it. Like I understand. Like I know it all goes back to that implicit bias, right? Of where sometimes we aren't necessarily seen on par with our male counterparts. And it doesn't happen everywhere. And honestly, I will say Bottle Rocket's a wonderful place to work. Like there's no disrespect to Bottle Rocket, but because of that, like year after year of like always like somebody else says, you know, I say something in a meeting and then somebody else follows up, says the same thing, and they're like, oh, great idea. And the credit doesn't go to me. That stuff happens so regularly that it's like we become numb to it and start to expect it. And I think that's horrifying. And that's the stuff that we need to support each other as women. And so one of the things that I really think is important is building that tribe and building your peers and giving mentoring and support to your employees. And I mean, we have got to support each other, because it's only through, if I always say, now that was my idea, I'm gonna look terrible, right? Like I'm always gonna look like the one that's always complaining. But if one of my tribe steps up and says, that was Amy's idea, and then the next time it's a different person, and the next time it's a different person, eventually that stuff starts to change. So for a woman in technology, I think we always have like this inferiority. It's not like our own, but at the same time, it feels like we're being questioned more, and it feels like we have to prove ourselves and that we have to be perfect. And I think like we just need to find our tribe, find our trust, find our advocates in order for us to be our true selves.
Have you personally ever experienced this before? And if you have, what have you done to combat those feelings and thoughts?
So I will say that I am one of the worst about reading social cues.
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
Because, I mean, engineer, introvert, like,
yeah.
I'm not always paying attention to other people.
Yeah.
Because that's just not, that's not who I am. I am much more introspective and working on myself and figuring out how I can make myself better. And so I don't do a great job of noticing.
Yeah.
So it has to be pretty overt. Mm-hmm. So it has happened to me a couple of times, but it's pretty like benign, the things that like, so sure. I was interviewing for a job. It's years ago. I was interviewing for a job, and the feedback came back that I wasn't technical enough.
Wow.
They literally asked me 0 technical questions.
Oh my God.
And then came back and told me I wasn't technical enough. And I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
Come on, people. But I mean, that's probably a company I don't want to work for anyway.
So what is your advice to anyone in our audience who may experience this? What are the steps to move forward with that?
So, well, again, I think, you know, find a place where you can be yourself.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to work at that company, and they made it real clear for me that I wouldn't be welcome there, which is wonderful. Like, we figured that out before I even started, so that's great. But I think, like I said before, like you have to find your group. You have to find your peers. You need to find your friends who you can be your authentic self and share your problems with, because they're the ones who can support you, and there's the ones who can back you up when you do feel like you're on an island or you're alone or you're not getting the support that you need. So I really think that, and as well as mentor, try and find a mentor who you can ask questions and look up to. I found a lot of value in both. In fact, I found equal value in mentors that I've had, as well as people that I have mentored. I learned so much from both.
I want to talk about a subject that everyone has been hammering me to talk about, okay? And it is this. It is the pay gap in gender. Do you believe and do you see that it exists?
So I know that it exists.
Okay.
I completely recognize that it exists. I'm sure you know, I can't remember what it's called, but yesterday was the Women's Equal Pay Day.
Yeah.
So basically, yesterday was the day of when what a man made in 2020, on average, it took women till yesterday to make the same amount in 2020. So yeah, it's like, I think we're at 82%. It's crazy. So I know that this is the case, and I definitely I know that this is a problem. And I can say that from applicants who come in, what they ask for, women ask for less than men do, which is interesting. However, one way that I combat this within at least the I can only control what I can control. But within my department, we have salary bands. And for each level, there's a certain band. And we make sure that everybody, and it's a relatively narrow band, and we try and make sure that everybody fits within those bands. Because ultimately, we want to pay, we want equity in pay for equal work. And so I think it's been relatively successful. We haven't rolled out any particular, I don't have the stats handy with me on it, but we do have, most of our engineering it's taken a long time to get there, but we've mostly got everybody into those salary bands, and it's critical because when we hire somebody, we want to make sure they're at, getting the same pay that other people at that same level are getting.
Yeah. I want to read a quote from Jordan Peterson. He is a clinical psychologist. He's a well-known speaker and author. And he says, there's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite, and agreeable people get paid less than disagreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men. Do you agree with this?
What a tricky question. I think, I don't know about the agreeable piece.
Okay.
But I do think that women don't advocate for themselves in the same ways that men do. And again, I think the way to combat that is through support and through advocacy, and make sure that, I can do what I can do to make sure that the women in my organization have support. And there's only so much I can do beyond that.
So before we close out with kind of our sort of fun bonus round to sort of get to know your personality and getting to know Amy a little bit more, what kind of final advice would you have for our audience when it comes to this topic of career success as a woman in technology?
Honestly, I think we need to be authentic as women. I feel like a lot of times we're asked to kind of hide who we are a little bit in order to fit in better and learn the sports metaphors and whatever. I heard a woman speak a while ago, and she's like, it's not fair. Pink is my favorite color and I want to wear pink. But if I wear pink, then the men think that I'm not professional enough. And you know what? Wear pink. I think we need to own and be more confident and own who we are. And I was so mad at myself the other day. I was talking to my team and giving some really hard news, and I cried. And then I apologized for it. What was I doing? Why did I apologize for that? I should never apologize. It was ridiculous. I was so mad at myself. And we need to be able to be authentic and be who we are and not be afraid of it. We need to be confident, and we need to share it with the world, because that's the only way that we can really be true to ourselves.
I love it. I love it. See, Amy, I told you were going to kill it on this conversation, man. And you were you're the perfect example, because you've done it. And everything that you say is true. I love it. I love it. I love it. Amy, I want to close with just a few fun questions here, just to kind of get to know you a little bit more. Amy, what is your favorite food?
Oh, chocolate, for sure, chocolate.
Chocolate for sure?
Yeah, my daughter and I have a policy. If either of us has any chocolate, we have to share. So we hold it up, and then we share with each other. That is our family policy.
Chocolate. What kind of music are you into lately?
Whatever my daughter's listening to on the radio. So who knows? Top 40, whatever, yeah.
What is streaming on your Netflix or streaming account right now?
So I watched The Ranch, and I really liked it. And then I went back, and now my husband and I are watching it. So that's really good. But my guilty pleasure, I love that Good Girls show.
Good Girls?
It's so bad, but so
Rosie
awesome.
Loves that show, right?
I know. It's all these suburban moms doing bad stuff. Oh, anyway,
it's
guilty
a great
pleasure.
Show. Yeah. Amy, what is something that you're really proud of that no one really knows about?
Wow. Put me on the spot with that one. I'm really good at braiding hair. I don't think anybody knows that, but it's true.
Okay.
It is true. I can
go.
make crazy braids. I can make awesome braids. I can do them any which way.
Hidden talent. Right on, right on. Amy, the show is called The Pathways to Success. How do you personally define success?
I think it is different for each person, and it's all about what you want to accomplish and who you want to be. So for me, what makes me excited and what gets me coming to work every day it's not like a title and it's not like a particular responsibility. I really want to do some good in the world, right? I want to be able to bring technology to areas that don't have it, or support children who want to like learn about computer science, or communities, underserved communities, and make sure that they have access to the technology that I was lucky enough to have when I was growing up and making my own like future decisions. And so for me, the thing that drives me and the thing that makes me want to and makes me feel successful is bringing technology for something good in the world.
I love it. Amy, tell our audience how to connect with you, follow you, support you, check out Bottle Rocket, check out Bold Idea. Tell us all this.
Absolutely. So let's see. Yes, Bottle Rocket, we are hiring like crazy. I'll just put that plug out there. So if you're interested in a position, we're hiring across all kinds of different competencies. Bold Idea, we're always looking for mentors. So absolutely would love to connect with you that way. As far as how to hit me up, honestly, it's just LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are the only two I really have. I have the Twitter and I don't use it. So that's kind of it. So anyway, would love to hear from you though.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to have all your contact information in the show notes as well. Amy, thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been amazing.
Thanks, Julian. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And everyone else, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success. If you enjoyed this episode with Amy, please hit that subscribe bell. Share this out with people in your network. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Pathways to Success.